Next year, we're getting from DC Studios a Clayface movie, which is said to be horror and comes from creators who have more than dipped their toes into the horror genre before. Before this, Marvel has alleged that they were making Multiverse of Madness into horror, even bringing Sam Raimi into the fold, and while the movie had some PG-13 horror-esque moments, it generally fit within the tonal confines of the MCU. We obviously in the past have had Blade, which started the cool leather coats trend, not The Matrix, but The Matrix popularized it. From there, Blade inspirations didn't end for a long time, with the tone of the underworld movies following suit, as well as movies like Van Helsing, or even as far as 2013's Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, an underrated action comedy horror that I really enjoy. So I haven't really talked about this on my channel before, but I do have a secret. I'm a Marvel fanboy and a DC fanboy. Overall, I love superheroes, I love reading comics, and stay regularly up to date with them. My wife says that 100% there's no way I know more about horror than I do superheroes, but I do have a horror YouTube channel. It's actually mainly to keep me in line with learning more about film analysis. Top 5 superheroes, no order here. For me, it's Superman, Mr. Fantastic, Chris Evans, Captain America, The Flash, and Ben 10. A really wide range of diverse and different acting characters. I'm not really sure why I relate to them. None of them look like me. I am a part-time genius scientist who loves sumo slammers, but like, who isn't? Anyways, I think I've sufficiently made my case for being allowed to talk about superheroes on this channel. So today's topic is what comic books, specifically superheroes or supervillains, I think would actually translate really well into a horror film. Horror and super are no strangers to each other, but also non-super horror is like a huge thing in the comics in the early 1900s, along with romance and cowboys and a wide range of genres that aren't superhero, but people mostly associate comic books with superheroes.
Why do you keep them under there?
Mom doesn't like me to have them.
Laser Man? Neutron Man? I can understand why.
If we were to go further into the history of canceled or reworked projects meant to appeal to the horror fan base, we'd be here all day, but as of right now, horror is very appealing and popular to the mainstream audience, and it ebbs and flows as we can see throughout film history. But if we were to capture the audience right now with a couple characters, hero or otherwise, I would go with these three, starting with, of course, somebody that we've actually already seen on the big screen before, but I think they really set it up well for a sequel, everybody's favorite, Morbius. I'm kidding. The big question I always ask is why? Why take something, especially if we're adapting a specific story, from comic to film at all? And my answer for this is really the kinetic energy that is built up inside of comics themselves. Being released onto the screen really can help a character get their point across. Whether emotional or physical, it can be very exciting, and the character that I feel is held within these bounds the most is the Spirit of Vengeance himself, Ghost Rider. Created by Gary Frederick, Mike Ploog, and Roy Thomas in 1972, he's a character who's remained with a B-list status despite not being a part of many, if any, big Marvel projects that they've been putting out. Regardless of who's taking the mantle at the time, there's a tie to the devilish side of the Marvel universe where there are monstrous villains abound for him to battle. Whether you're talking about heavy hitters like Mephisto or Nightmare, who's been rumored to be part of the MCU for a long time now, or you're talking about really cool designed and more physical threats like Zadriel or Centurius as a more street-level character who you could actually tie into the Hood from Ironheart. I'm looking at my script and there's also a villain called Freakmaster. He's a freaky billionaire who spends his time on an island doing nefarious things. I don't know why this feels relevant. Just a hunch that there could be some commentary there. Ghost Rider's visual nature leads to this monstrous feel we get from horror often, and the design that we get from Spirit of Vengeance is actually very well captured. While we've gotten a couple live-action adaptations before, I feel like the character was limited in both of them. Whether it was the visual status that we get from Robbie Reyes' character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., or on a performance and character level from Nick Cage, I feel the character was limited. And limit isn't usually a word that I would typically use for Nick Cage, as he's Nick Cage, but I think his wide range of roles in recent years could lead to a stronger, more nuanced performance if he were to decide to take the role up again. With the early years of Mike Ploog's art, we could get a simplified but extremely outstanding and striking version of Ghost Rider akin to the Peacemaker route, or with an artist like Matthew Clark being the inspiration, we could get a stupid amount of fire and really in-your-face visuals from the film. There are many different issues and runs that you can take from to get a really great story, but I feel like the character himself lends to a really strong start, especially with this very common theme that we see popping up in horror a lot nowadays, trauma. Ghost Rider, whether Danny, Johnny, Robbie, or heck, even Frank Castle, have an origin rooted in trauma. Ghost Rider's penance stare is forced onto the lives of the evildoer, and we see what horrors they have inflicted onto the real world. The body horror element could actually be really strong here as well, and it's actually also very in right now due to the popularity of the substance, and something that I feel was really well focused on in the original Ghost Rider film, at least for this one scene. For some reason, we're also just getting back into embracing how totally badass stuff can be without the baggage of, "Oh, look how funny this is." And the marketing of a flame-headed, hog-riding, chain-flipping guy could really do a lot for people as far as marketing goes. Hell yeah core is something I recently discovered, and it's super male oriented and could possibly be toxic.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
But if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, maybe the next character on my list might be the one for you, Raven. Created by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, Raven is a character rich with dark visuals, a scary past, and a cult-like feel because her dad is a demon. There are rumors, I hope are true, of a Teen Titan movie coming out soon. And I think building Raven as the emotional center of the team could work really well because her story is so tragic that it makes it really accessible for anyone to feel empathy for. My initial concept for this is actually piggybacking off of the idea of Rosemary's Baby. While we don't need a full-blown origin story for Raven, or any of the Titans for that matter, if written with enough care, it could shove exposition down the audience's throat about the newly starting DCU and how magic works and these other aspects of it without really feeling like it. Rosemary's Baby is all just a buildup of tension. There's a baby on the way, there's something nefarious going on surrounding the circumstances of its origin, and when we get to the end of the movie, the tension isn't released. If anything, it's heightened. Where does the baby go from here? What is a child that's born into the devil's life going to be like?
What's inside of me?
While I never want a sequel to Rosemary's Baby, please, Hollywood, don't do that. I do think that seeing Raven's life growing up in the occult could be extremely interesting. The occult, like body horror, is popping right now. Hereditary, Bring Her Back, Him, these are all examples just from recent years, and actually is the genre that scares me personally the most. Raven's visuals and her abilities, but also the abilities alone being in the hands of a kid, as well as being the daughter of Trigon, are all a lot for a kid to bear. I'm sure that there can be similarities drawn to the Omen as well. What kind of psychological damage would being worshipped do to someone? Where does she go when she learns the life around her is an abnormal one compared to the outside world? Again, another comparison here, a Truman Show situation. This could work really well, and it could also slide into the new DCU as they're kind of casting a wider net as to what tones they're going to allow to come into the universe. Now, for my last pick, you guys are going to have to kind of hear me out, but before we get to that, I have a couple honorable mentions. I recently thought of the idea of a murder mystery plot where the detective that's on the case can't find out what's going on because the killer is someone that's coming into the dimension, killing, and then leaving without a trace. Except now, we would use timelines. Now, timelines, detective, murder, you probably see where I'm going here. I want to do The Flash Season 1 again. And what does John Carpenter say? Fans call for sequels because they just want to see the same movie again? Guilty as charged. I do think that having a proper Reverse Flash villain makes sense here. I think it would be smart to already have an established Flash in this universe so we can move on to Wally, somebody that a lot of audiences are clamoring to see, while also giving us Barry. But if you're James Gunn, I'm begging you, don't just ignore the Flash because the last one was a disaster. And obviously Blade is part of the honorable mentions. I don't want to do a full pitch because it's already been in the works. We've seen it before, and we all know how fucking cool it could be. For our final superhero horror mashup, I want to lean into an anthology presence akin to Trick or Treat. I dream of having Clive Barker, writer and director of Hellraiser, on this too. I see a cosmic horror film using characters like Silver Surfer, Galactus, the Celestials, or even gods of the universe like Living Tribunal and the Beyonders. Clive does a fantastic job building a world that is accessible without giving too much exposition to the audience while introducing very high-level concepts. We see this with the Cenobites. With these cosmic beings always debating the weight of life, duties of the universe, and the powers they hold, we could see the downfall or judgment a planet is receiving. Maybe Galactus wants to eat a planet that nobody else wants him touching. The visuals that Marvel has achieved, even in movies that weren't super well received by the audiences, are genuinely mind-blowing, and you can't say otherwise. I had butterflies in my stomach when I first saw this shot from Eternals, and have not felt this sense of scale achieved in many other movies. Getting the cinematographer from that movie, Ben Davis, or Interstellar's Hoyt van Hoytema would be the dream. The horrific designs we could get from these incomprehensible beings, alongside the weight of the concepts being explored here, could be really mind-boggling. I love this issue of Adam Warlock where we see these characters all interacting. At this time in comics, cosmic mumbo-jumbo was pretty much everywhere and really, really annoying to read, but I think that this issue does a really good job. They could also converge the storylines at the end with this really big spectacle thing that we've come to know from Marvel, while throughout exploring and showing us cosmic horror, something that's not really touched in movies right now, at least that I'm aware of. But what do you guys think? Are there any characters that you want to see explored in these universes without the confines of the MCU tone? Are there characters I chose something that you guys would like to see? Either way, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by clicking the like button, subscribing, or checking out the rest of the channel. Otherwise, thank you for watching.